We just saw Michael Irvin on the TV side talking about his interaction with Jerry Jones. One of the reasons, once again, I don't feel like primetime is actually going to go to the Dallas Cowboys because of Jerry Jones and his ego getting in the way. But you know what? A man that would probably know something a little bit about that when it comes to the college football perspective and the future of primetime is my man right here, Bruce Feldman. Bruce Feldman, college football insider, one of my good friends. I told them we go back like members only jackets and Jerry curls, man. We go way back, bro.
I know some of your best stories, so yeah.
Some of the stories we can't repeat on air either as well. But I also told him that you're a huge hip hop guy, man.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yes, I love old R&B. That's everything I listen to now. So.
See, TJ, you would have never guessed that, would you?
Bruce, how long
I'm offended by that.
How long we know each other? 5 years now, 6 years?
Evidently not well enough. What did you think? I was an Oak Ridge Boys fan?
I figured you pulled up listening to Boz Scaggs, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. 'Cause I like Mike Del Tufo. You know I like Boz Scaggs.
I know you do. I mean,
I like Boz Scaggs.
Well,
that's not a knock. I didn't know that the hip hop R&B line were in so deep.
No, that's been everything for me since I was a little kid. So now the hip hop version is stuck in neutral in the 90s.
Okay, well that makes sense.
That's the era. That's the era. Top 5 right now. Top 5.
Top 5 is old.
Okay,
it's going to be like Run. It's going to be Eric B and Rakim.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be Q-Tip. It's going to be Big Daddy Kane.
Big Daddy Kane.
Big Daddy Kane got the job done.
When Bruce Feldman's in the house,
And there's some stuff I like. I mean, I love like the old like Pete Rock, CL Smooth. Like those songs stay with me.
See, that's a hip hop head.
Straighten
right?
it out.
The
Pete
fact
Rock,
that
CL Smooth.
Pete Rock's a good friend of mine too, man. That's cool, man. Let's talk college football though, bro.
Bruce,
You know what? I think one day,
relationship's
just
gonna
to
be
go back, like the person who I'm like love the most, not hip hop, but is Anthony Hamilton. I think there was a time where like he popped up on your timeline. I was like, wow, Mike Hill knows him.
Yeah, man. I've gone to a couple of concerts with Anthony Hamilton. Yeah, friends of friends and stuff like that, man. Yeah, I got to bring you out, man.
That's bigger than me than you hanging out with Acho for sure.
He's a sports fan too, man. So we got to get him involved and let him know that you're a big fan of his, man. Like, yeah, you like them love songs. Yeah, Bruce. Bruce is also a heartthrob. I don't know if y'all noticed or not.
Well, I mean, that's obvious.
He's a heartthrob. Like, women at games go crazy when they see Bruce Feldman. Like, we got several photos of Bruce, right? Remember that one story you were telling the other day?
Oh, yeah. Somebody, like, I didn't know that somebody was looking at me like that until I got off camera. And I had texts from some of the parents I know who my kid plays sports with. And they were like, your wife going to have to fight that woman. I'm like, my wife would lose that.
Yeah, she was looking at you like a snack.
No.
She wanted some of the Bruce Feldman. All right, man.
Bruce's appearance will never be the same after today.
That's what I'm saying. But it's my man, Bruce Feldman. I told you got that swagger, man. Before we get into the primetime thing, let's get into the college football playoff rankings. Came out yesterday. Top 12, of course. Boise State got a bye. Of course, they're one of the top conference winners right now. Of course, BYU losing, dropped them back to 12th. Anything surprise you about the rankings that came out yesterday?
I can't say I'm surprised that BYU plummeted. I was a little surprised that BYU was one spot behind SMU. They beat SMU in Dallas. Like SMU had 5 trips inside the red zone. BYU shut them down. They got no touchdowns. You know, what doesn't help BYU is not only did they lose to a Kansas team that, is way under 500, but also K-State, who they whipped, beat them by almost 30. K-State keeps losing, and now K-State's out of the top 25. So really they're hanging it with that one win at SMU, but still they did beat SMU head-to-head. And it's not like SMU's best win might be Louisville, and Louisville's out of the top 25. Again, we're like nitpicking on 12 and 13. You sit there and go, okay, who is going to drop? I think the biggest thing this week is our crew for Big Noon has Indiana undefeated going to Ohio State. Huge game. Indiana doesn't have any great wins on their resume. If they sit there and go 11-1, just don't get blown out this weekend. I'm not saying they need to win. Obviously, it would help them immensely if they do. But if they lose 31-17, 31-21, I don't think they plummet.
No.
But
not on the road.
But because look, Texas has no good wins. And Texas is sitting there at number 3, and they lost by 15 at home, where they were getting blown out of the building by Georgia.
Right.
And that was at home. This is a road game, but I think there's just a different aura about Texas. We just saw them in the playoff last year. last year Indiana was atrocious. Now, it's not Kurt Cignetti's fault. He wasn't there last year.
Right.
But this is how, like, kind of the minds work and eye test and all those things.
Indiana's been the talk of college football this year, obviously because of the start 10-0 for the first time ever. Top 5, Kurt Cignetti deserves a lot of credit. Curtis Rourke, really good quarterback coming off that injury a couple of weeks ago. And Ohio State, they got a chance against Ohio State because Indiana has the best point differential of any college football team in the nation right now. They're blowing, so even though they haven't played anybody, the teams that they are playing, they're blowing them out by 30 points a game. Ohio State just lost its starting center. They're already down their top 2 left tackles. So what kind of chance do you give the Hoosiers against Ohio State on Saturday?
A little more of a chance now that, Seth McLaughlin's that center. He was a 2-year starter at Alabama. He went into Ohio State and has been a terrific, rock for them to just really lean on. As you mentioned, yesterday he gets the Achilles injury and they're going to miss him because now they got to shuffle their offensive line. Carson Hinsman, who was their starting center last year, he seems to be much more comfortable as a guard. He's played pretty well out there. If he slides back in, I think part of the challenge for him has been he's been very comfortable without the responsibilities of making the calls and some of the things that are on a center, and he's just playing and being physical. It's not like he doesn't have experience because he's played a lot of football at that position. They have elite skill talent. The running backs are great. The receivers, maybe even better. And the defense is really good. I still think I think they're the best team in the country.
Ohio State?
I do. Because I think they're so good on defense, and I think they're really loaded with skill guys. But the offensive line, which had been playing pretty well since the Nebraska game, now I think that's like a little bit of a gut check for them to see how they come in because Indiana has a good defensive front. They got a transfer from Kent State, C.J. West, who's been been a really good player. Kamara, who's like a edge rusher, kind of in the mold of Robert Mathis and Freeney, where he's not super tall, but he's really explosive. He's been very disruptive. Cignetti's done a terrific job, but I still think this is such a step up in weight class compared to what Indiana's been going against, and it's home. I feel like Ohio State will rally and win this game.
Okay, and I agree with you. Ohio State obviously is the favorite at the shoe. It's tough to beat them at the shoe. And they've won possibly because of their defense this year. You think about it. But I don't know if the defense has really been tested as much. I mean, Penn State's offense is, up and down sometimes, and Penn State's always had trouble against Ohio State. The only real offense that they played this season has been Oregon.
And they lost.
And they lost that game.
Gabriel looked really good.
And Gabriel looked really good. So, and I don't think Indiana's offense gets enough credit because of what they're able to do this year. So, it'll be an interesting matchup to see what happens in that matchup on Saturday.
Yeah, they execute. We had them against Nebraska, and they were surgical against the Huskers. Now, the Huskers are nowhere as talented as Ohio State, especially on the back end of the defense, but they're playing with a ton of confidence. And as you said, Curtis Rourke's played a lot of football. He's similar, I think, to Ohio State's quarterback, Will Howard. Both are big guys who, even though they're big guys, don't have rocket arms, but run pretty well, and they're willing runners. And I think they have a lot of poise because they played a ton of football. Certainly, Curtis Rourke has pretty good skill talent. He just does not have a Jeremiah Smith. He doesn't have Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson. But, he may have a better offensive line right now because of all the injuries that Ohio State's dealing with.
Right. Well, Ohio State just got too many weapons. Emeka Egbuka go along with that as well. Quinshon Judkins, as you mentioned. I got to ask you an Alabama question. Alabama jumps up. A lot of people are making a big deal about Alabama passing Miami in this week's rankings and whatnot because, they beat Mercer. They beat Mercer. Alabama's resume overall,
it's much better.
They should have been ahead of Miami in the first place. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think the committee might have been playing this game where they clustered those 3 teams in the SEC, and we're like, well, if we move Miami below Alabama, then we got to move them below all 3. And I don't know if they wanted to drop them that far. I don't know how much of the rationale of that because you have different voices in the room, but ultimately, when I look at Alabama, there was a rough night they had against Tennessee, where Tennessee has a really good defense,
Great
and
defense.
I always thought Milroe didn't look like himself, whether he was banged up or whatever. Just talking to people inside the program, when he's really aggressive, he is a different kind of quarterback because he's so dynamic, so explosive. He's got a good arm, and now, Ryan Williams is a playmaking receiver. I don't think they have, a couple things that they had when Saban was really rolling. You had great running backs, whether it was, our guy Mark Ingram or certainly Derrick Henry. Trent Richardson in college was fantastic. I don't think the running backs are quite at that level. And also, last year's team wasn't a great team by Saban standards, but the secondary was really good. Now, Caleb Downs is in Columbus. He is not in Tuscaloosa. I don't think they're as good in the secondary, and they don't have that like super disruptive edge rusher.
Right.
Like they have a big time linebacker in Jihad Campbell who's playing great, but the defense isn't. They're playing pretty well, but they just don't have kind of the same. And I think because of that, people look at this is a really good team. I don't think they see it as a great team, but they have a quarterback who can play great. I mean, I hate to compare anybody to the Ravens quarterback who's a generational talent with like what Lamar can do, but just in terms of like how he can put a team on he can put an opponent on its heels so much because Milroe's so fast and hits top speed so fast and can just turn a 6-yard carry into a 70-yard touchdown. That is a weapon, and I think Kalen DeBoer is figuring out how to best use him because he's way different than Michael Penix Jr. They had this high-level passing game last year at Washington. It's not to say Milroe has plenty of arm strength, and he's a smart kid who works really hard. But I just think Penix, they were just different. Like in terms of Penix can run, he wasn't like the runner. Like he has speed, but not like this guy. So I think it's just kind of how the pieces are coming together. And I think DeBoer is a great coach. We see him in big head-to-head games. Like, I wouldn't want to play them if I was anybody in the playoffs.
Kalen DeBoer is a winner. Everywhere he's gone, he's won. He's winning. I mean, just to replace a legend like Nick Saban's, it's tough shoes to fill. Right? I'm an Alabama fan.
I know. I've been in the room with you on Saturdays.
When they lost to Vanderbilt, I'm like, hey, Nick Saban was rolled over his grave, and I don't know Nick Saban's alive, but I'm saying like that would never happen if Vanderbilt. But Vanderbilt's a good team, and people forget about that. Vanderbilt was in the top 25 this year. Vanderbilt's going to a bowl game this year. Yeah. But you look at Alabama, and I just love the way they've improved since that Tennessee game, especially on defense.
Yeah.
The defense has been shutting teams down. So I think Alabama's going to make some noise before it's all said and done. In the SEC, you might get 4 teams out of the SEC, 4 teams out of the Big Ten right now as it stands. Notre Dame, depending on what happens against Army, that's going to be really crucial because if Army wins that game against Notre Dame, there's a possibility Notre Dame might not.
Yeah, they would be out because I just think Notre Dame has that loss early in the season against NIU, and that was a home game. I don't think with Notre Dame's schedule, the best thing they have going for them is a win at Texas A&M, but like Texas A&M needs to go beat Texas and do them a favor later in the year, or else that win carries way less weight because Texas A&M was kind of like riding high after they beat LSU. Well, now LSU's like losing games, and LSU's not a top 25 team.
Right.
So it's like you're so interconnected with all these teams who you play, and you got to ride with them even weeks after you play them to hope they don't fall apart. And if Notre Dame's 11-1, they're going to the playoff. If Notre Dame stubs their toe either against Army, which is possible, or certainly against USC out here, which is possible, then that's going to open up a spot for one of the power conferences.
I think it's more intriguing if they lose against Army, and here's why. We was talking about this last night when I was at Fox. If Army beats Notre Dame, Army's going to move up in the rankings, obviously, right? They can win their conference,
yeah,
right?
Could.
They can win their conference, and this is the great thing about college football this year with 12 teams getting in. The top 5 conferences, right, get a automatic bid, right? There's a possibility that Army out of the AAC.
Yep, they would play Tulane in the title game.
Play Tulane in the title game. That's if they beat Tulane in the title game, then
Tulane's number 20, as we see.
Number 20, they could move up even more. I know Army's 19 right now. They can move up even more. Now, say that BYU loss in the Big 12 may hurt the Big 12 because BYU could lose again, right? And even if they get to the title game, say Colorado loses to Kansas, still plays BYU in the title game, there's no guarantee that the Big 12 gets in.
Well,
in the top 5.
Yeah, and to get one of those seeds, right?
Because Boise State wins out. Boise State wins this conference, right?
And they would most likely play that UNLV team that's 24th. But if they beat UNLV again, UNLV is going to fall out of the top 25. So unfortunately for Boise, the best thing they're going to have is the same thing Penn State has, which is a close loss. Their close losses against Oregon.
Yeah.
At Oregon. No, it's not. They lost by 3 points. Yeah. They could have won that game. But I just think the strength of schedule of what Boise State has is just different. Where Army's schedule isn't as strong, as Boise State's. But look, They're going to play Tulane. They're going to play Notre Dame. If they win those games, I don't know how high up they jump, but I would say an undefeated Tulane
Army.
I'm sorry, an undefeated Army with those 2 wins.
Yep.
You know, like they're going to have a better resume, I think, than SMU would if SMU won the ACC.
So
SMU's best win right now, like if they win that, would let's say be over Miami, who would then be a 2-loss team, and they still have a loss against BYU. I just think that I get it. The ACC is a much tougher conference than the AAC.
Right.
But still, you have a team. Who have they played? And you have a team with 2 good wins. I think if Tulane loses that game, Tulane probably will be 10-3. I still think they probably would be in the top 25, maybe 20. You know, and I definitely think Notre Dame would be somewhere in the teens. So their resume, I think, would be good enough as an unbeaten team. And just to think about this, an academy team in the day and age of the portal and NIL could make the playoff in the first year is an amazing story.
That is amazing. Navy's having a really good season, too. Before we let you go, man, obviously Colorado's the talk right now. Outside of Indiana, if it wasn't for Cignetti, we'd probably be talking about Prime as, you know, one of the coaches of the year. Obviously, he's going to get some recognition depending on how Indiana finishes and how Colorado finishes. But how do you see Colorado if they win the Big 12, if they go to the college football playoffs? Everybody's talking about, we talked about at the beginning of the segment, moving on to the end. Do you see Deion Sanders being the coach of the Colorado Buffaloes next year in any capacity? Like, or is he going to the NFL or maybe even possible to the Florida State University? Because I know they just gave the coach Norvell a big contract there, but they got money to buy him out.
Yeah, I would be the one thing if I was a Colorado fan that I'd be most worried about is that he tries to go to the NFL because, you know, a lot of college coaches go to the NFL and they bomb. Well, Jim Harbaugh is not bombing, but Jim Harbaugh, you know, he killed it with the 49ers, came back to Michigan, won a national title, and now he's killing it with the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh played in the NFL for a long time, you know, and Jim Harbaugh going back there, you know, he knew what it took. A lot of college guys, they don't have any experience and they go there and it doesn't work out. Well, Deion is completely different because Deion was a legendary player. He knows that world. I think also, you know, I'm a believer because going to the game last week, Mike, we've been there in Boulder before since, you know, last year, but like it's different energy than almost any other place I've been to for a game in a long time. And it's a reflection of him and it's a reflection of certainly some of his star players. And what I wonder about though is when Shedeur leaves and when Travis leaves, which will, you know, be very soon, you know, it's going to feel very different if he, you know. And I think if there's an NFL team looking at it and going, you know what, I think Shedeur can be a franchise quarterback. Who better to coach him, to be the head coach, than the guy who's, you know, whatever, spent 15 years in the NFL as a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And we see, like, he can coach. Like, you know, like people, I think, get it twisted and think of a lot of style, and there's a lot of stuff that they may be uncomfortable with, and they don't realize. I've talked to guys who work for him at CU, and the picture they paint is way different than what a lot of people think they're seeing. Right. And so I wouldn't doubt him, but I just, you know, I come back to thinking, like, if you're CU, you would do anything you can to keep him. You know, I don't know if there's
what can they do?
I don't know if there's a dollar figure, like, for him to make it so prohibitive that he would be like, no, I'm going to stay here, as opposed to, you know, go stay connected and be directly involved with my son's development in the NFL.
But I hear you, and that'll be a great story. Obviously, with LeBron and Bronny and all that stuff like that, LeBron has the power to be able to tell the Lakers, draft my son. Yeah. If Deion goes to an NFL team.
The Raiders?
That's the only spot, though.
That's
like
the only
you're
spot.
talking about, is Deion going to let Shedeur go to Cleveland or the Jets? No, absolutely not. He's going to sit out. They're going to pull an Eli Manning or a Bo Jackson.
Right.
Raiders is really the only spot, and they'd have to one and done Antonio Pierce, but they're
that
in
wouldn't
position.
shock me if they one and done Antonio
not at
Pierce.
all.
No,
Not
but
for
I'm
Prime.
saying they're in position. They're 5th overall, and they could just force him Shedeur there, and then Deion's the coach.
Deion in Vegas sounds like it might be a very good fit.
I understand that, but like, can we put the draft order up again? Because I got to find out where.
And all the other teams have quarterback. Jacksonville has a quarterback.
So, all right, the Browns need a quarterback. The Giants need a quarterback. The Giants need a quarterback. And they're just saying Shador's going to be the first quarterback off the board.
Travis might go to the Giants. Who knows? Right?
But Travis might go to the Jaguars. Travis might be the number 1 overall pick. I mean, any team would want to have the Browns need they need wide receivers. They need all the help all they can get. So Travis is definitely going to be one of the top picks in the draft, maybe top 3 picks in the draft. But as far as quarterbacks are concerned, the Giants need a quarterback. Giants are tanking right now.
Yeah.
The Raiders could still be there, whatnot. There's no guarantee. Like it's. Prime going to a NFL team, which great story, obviously, right? Everything that you mentioned, the players, he still resonates with the players of today. They remember his YouTube. They remember how great he was. He still got that swagger. He still has that persona, has that grace, and the players love him to death, whatnot. He can go there, but there's no guarantee he can actually have his players.
I get it, yeah.
His son drafted to that team. Because other teams are in need of a great quarterback, and they're not just going to like, oh, that's a nice story. We're just going to let you guys have that quarterback so Shador can go there. Obviously, there can be some times where they can make it difficult for a team to draft them. Like you said, Cleveland Browns, I would never let my son play for the Cleveland Browns. I wouldn't. I would think about maybe not the Raiders. I don't know, because sometimes I just think dysfunction carries over.
Yeah, I think Tom Brady being there is a huge factor, though.
That helps. That helps.
I feel like you're talking yourself over here.
Yeah.
I'm just helping you out.
He's happy he's got a quarterback right now.
Helping you out, Bruce.
Yeah.
Drake May's the truth.
Bruce Feldman.
I thought you were talking Kyle McCord now. You're wearing the different hat.
Always good seeing you, my brother.
Yeah.
I told him that you're invited to the cookout. You're not only invited to the cookout, you can cook at the cookout. And you won't be putting raisins in a potato salad at all.
I'm okay with the diabetes kind of thing. So when I was a little kid,
Kool-Aid sweet, baby.
When I was a little kid, I went to one of my best friends' house for Thanksgiving, and the sides, I was like, ooh, these are way different. And so my mom talked to his mom, and she was like, oh my God, she's putting so much brown sugar and so much stuff in there. It was like, I don't know if we're gonna do that. So
yeah, it's called seasoning, Bruce. That's it. Bruce, always good seeing you, man.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.